Over the past year, we've worked with dozens of teams building large language model agents, and the best implementations had one thing in common. They weren't using complex frameworks or specialized libraries. They were built from simple composable patterns. Here's what we learned, and how to build effective agents yourself. First, what is an agent? People use the word in different ways. Some mean fully autonomous systems that run on their own for long stretches using tools to finish complex tasks. Others mean more prescriptive setups that follow a fixed workflow. We call all of these agentic systems, but we draw one important architectural line. Workflows are systems where models and tools are orchestrated through predefined code paths. Agents are systems where the model dynamically directs its own process and tool use, staying in control of how it gets the job done. Fixed paths versus the model steering itself. That distinction runs through everything that follows. So, when should you build one? Our advice: find the simplest solution that works, and add complexity only when you need it. Sometimes that means not building an agentic system at all. These systems trade latency and cost for better performance, so ask whether that trade-off is worth it. When complexity is warranted, workflows give predictability and consistency for well-defined tasks. Agents win when you need flexibility and model-driven decisions at scale. But for many applications, a single well-optimized model call, with retrieval and good examples, is all you need. There are many frameworks that make this easier. The Claude Agent SDK, the Strands Agents SDK from AWS, Rivet for drag and drop workflows, and Vellum for building and testing them. They're great for getting started. They handle calling models, defining and parsing tools, and chaining calls. But they add layers of abstraction that can hide the actual prompts and responses, making debugging harder and tempting you to add complexity you don't need. These patterns are just a few lines of code. And if you do use a framework, understand what's under the hood. Now, the patterns themselves. We'll start with the foundational building block and add complexity gradually. That building block is the augmented LLM, a model enhanced with retrieval, tools, and memory. Today's models use these actively, writing their own search queries, picking the right tools, deciding what to remember. Two things matter here. Tailor these capabilities to your use case and give the model a clean, well-documented interface to use them. One option is the Model Context Protocol, which connects you to a growing ecosystem of third-party tools through a simple client. For the rest of the video, assume every model call has these augmented abilities. The first workflow is prompt chaining. You break a task into a sequence of steps where each model call works on the previous one's output. You can add programmatic checks, gates, at any step to keep things on track. Use this when a task splits cleanly into fixed subtasks. The goal: trade a little latency for higher accuracy, because each call is now an easier job. For example, write marketing copy, then translate it into another language. Or write an outline, check it meets your criteria, then write the full document from it. Next, routing. Routing classifies an input, then sends it to a specialized follow-up task. This separates concerns and lets you build focused prompts, because optimizing for one kind of input often hurts the others. Use it for tasks with distinct categories that are better handled separately when classification can be done accurately, by a model or a traditional classifier. For example, sending general questions, refund requests, and technical support down different paths, or routing easy, common questions to a smaller, cheaper model like Claude Haiku and hard ones to a more capable model like Claude Sonnet, balancing performance and cost. Third, Parallelization. Sometimes models can work on a task at the same time, and you combine their outputs in code. It comes in two flavors: sectioning, splitting a task into independent subtasks that run in parallel, and voting, running the same task several times for diverse outputs. Use it when subtasks can be parallelized for speed, or when multiple attempts give you more confidence. Models also do better when each consideration gets its own focused call. Sectioning example. One model answers the user while another screens for inappropriate content. That beats asking one call to do both. Voting example. Several prompts review code for vulnerabilities, each flagging problems with vote thresholds tuned to balance false positives and negatives. Fourth, Orchestrator-workers. A central model, the orchestrator, dynamically breaks down a task, delegates pieces to worker models, and synthesizes their results. Use it for complex tasks where you can't predict the subtasks in advance. In coding, the number of files to change and the change in each depends on the task. It looks like parallelization, but here's the key difference. The subtasks aren't predefined. The orchestrator decides them from the input. Good fits. Coding products that touch many files at once, and search tasks that gather and analyze information from many sources. Fifth, Evaluator-optimizer. One model generates a response, another evaluates it and gives feedback, in a loop. This shines when you have clear evaluation criteria, and iterating measurably helps. Two signs it fits. A human's feedback would clearly improve the response, and the model itself can give that feedback. It's the same loop a human writer uses to polish a draft. Examples: literary translation, where an evaluator catches nuances the first pass missed, or complex search, where the evaluator decides whether more rounds are worth it. Which brings us to agents. They're reaching production now because models got good at what matters, understanding complex inputs, reasoning and planning using tools reliably, and recovering from errors. An agent starts with a command or a conversation with a human. Once the task is clear, it plans and works independently, returning to the human for information or judgment when needed. As it works, it's crucial that it gets ground truth from the environment at each step, tool results, code execution, to judge its progress. It can pause at checkpoints or when it hits a blocker. The task usually ends on completion, but adds stopping conditions like a maximum number of iterations to stay in control. And under the hood, it's surprisingly simple. An agent is just a model using tools in a loop guided by feedback from its environment. So when do you reach for an agent? For open-ended problems where you can't predict the number of steps and can't hard code a path, and where you trust the model's decisions enough to let it run. That autonomy is what makes agents scale, but it also means higher cost and the risk of compounding errors. So test extensively in sandboxes and add the right guardrails. Two of our own examples: a coding agent that resolves SWE bench tasks across many files, and our computer use implementation, where Claude operates a computer to get things done. One thing to stress, these aren't prescriptive blueprints. They're common patterns you shape and combine for your own use case. And the key, as with any model feature, is to measure performance and iterate. Add complexity only when it demonstrably improves outcomes. To bring it together, success here isn't about the most sophisticated system. It's about the right system for your needs. Start with simple prompts, optimize them with solid evaluation, and add multi-step agents only when simpler approaches fall short. When you do build agents, we follow 3 principles. 1, keep the design simple. 2. Prioritize transparency. Show the agent's planning steps. 3. Carefully craft your agent-computer interface, the ACI, through good tool documentation and testing. Frameworks help you start, but as you reach production, don't be afraid to strip away abstractions and build with basic components. Let me close with the appendices. There's real practical value there. First, 2 places agents shine. Both need conversation and action, clear success criteria, feedback loops, and human oversight. The first is customer support. It pairs a familiar chat interface with real capability through tools. Support naturally flows back and forth while needing outside information and actions. Tools can pull customer data, order history, knowledge base articles. Actions like refunds or ticket updates run in code. And success is measurable through resolutions. In fact, several companies now charge only for successful resolutions, real confidence in how well their agents work. The second is coding agents. Software has gone from code completion to autonomous problem solving. Agents fit well because code is verifiable through automated tests. The agent can iterate on those test results as feedback. The problem space is well defined, and quality can be measured objectively. In our work, agents now solve real GitHub issues in SWE bench verified from the pull request description alone. But automated tests only prove it works. Human review still matters to make sure the solution fits the broader system. Last, prompt engineering your tools. Whatever you build, tools are a big part of it, and your tool definitions deserve as much attention as your prompts. There are usually several ways to specify the same action. A file edit could be a diff or a full rewrite. Structured output could be code in Markdown or in JSON. In software, these are cosmetic, but some formats are much harder for a model to write. A diff means counting changed lines before writing the code. JSON means escaping new lines and quotes. So, give the model room to think before it writes itself into a corner. Keep formats close to what it's seen on the internet and remove overhead like line counting or string escaping. One rule of thumb. Think about how much effort goes into human-computer interfaces and put just as much into your agent-computer interfaces. Put yourself in the model's shoes. Is it obvious how to use this tool, or would you have to stop and think? If you would, so will the model. A good definition has example usage, edge cases, input formats, and clear boundaries from other tools. Improve parameter names and descriptions like you're writing a docstring for a junior developer. Test how the model actually uses your tools, watch the mistakes, and iterate. And poker yoke them. Design the arguments so mistakes are hard to make. Building our SWE bench agent, we spent more time on tools than on the prompt. The model kept slipping on relative file paths once it left the root directory. So we required absolute paths, and from then on it used them flawlessly. That's the whole picture. Start simple, add complexity only when it earns its place, keep it transparent, and invest in the interface between your agent and its tools. Do that, and you'll build agents people can actually rely on.